Sure.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff. Welcome, welcome. My name is Donato and welcome to my channel. Welcome to today's special show where we have a special guest. But before we speak to our special guest, if you are new here, please do subscribe. Click on that link, subscribe button down there. But yes, a very warm welcome to our special guest, Tim Grose. Welcome to the show, Tim.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. How about yourself? I like your cavern you've got behind you there. It looks like a proper heaven. It looks like heaven there.
I had to get one specially built because I'm so tall. Like the treadmill didn't fit into my garage, so it's the only way I could have one. It's not really enough room inside either, so I had to get this specially built with a high enough ceiling that I could actually run on it. So
when you say you're so tall, obviously we're going to talk a lot about yourself because you are our guest for today. How tall are you?
I mean, well, in metric I'm 195, and in old money I'm 6'5". So.
6'5", so pretty tall. But that does look. I mean, I'm very envious because behind me here, as you see my bibs, but behind you, you've got like a proper man cave there.
Yeah,
so,
I've got like a treadmill here, and I've got my bike over this on this side. So. Yeah.
Bike there. But the reason why I get you on is you're an amazing athlete, and you've been an athlete. You said to me that you've been training properly, so to speak, since the age of 16, which is quite a few years now, isn't it, Tim? If you don't mind me saying that.
Yeah, I was born in 66.
You are
I was
young,
born in 66, so I just missed the World Cup. But then, yeah, I started training when I was at school. I used to do like sort of school cross countries, but I think I used to play cricket a lot, and then I got a bit disillusioned with cricket, and then I didn't sort of stop cricket and started running. But I think one day I decided I'd run around the block as fast as I could, and I think I was about 15. So I didn't, in those days you didn't have any idea about training.
That's right. Yeah.
Literally sort of, head out the door, run as fast as you can with no warm up, and then come back inside knackered.
So were you? I can't remember the words, but we had words like in the West Country it was daps, in the Midlands I think it was plimsolls. What were they called down? Because we didn't have any of these. I see you have lots of nice shoe boxes behind you. We'll talk more about those later, but we didn't have any fancy training shoes that we have now. Was it in just your flats, plimsolls?
The first shoes I had to run in, I think, was sort of Marks and Spencer's sort of trainers in inverted commas, and then I upgraded to some high-tech silver shadows.
Right.
They were amazing compared to like the Marks and Spencer's ones. I think literally were a bit of plastic. There wasn't anything such. And the silver shadows actually had some cushioning in it. I think I went for a 5K in them. I took about a minute of my time just in the shoes. So even in those days, the shoes could make a difference. And then I think. Bits soon after, I think I upgraded to some Nike shoes. And, I've largely sort of used Nike on and off since then. So this is what I think 83. I started training sort of regularly when I was 16.
Excellent. I was going to say that you are a YouTuber, and today is a special day where you reached 1,000 subscribers. So I should have had some music playing on here and doing some whooping. So many congratulations on reaching 1,000 subscribers, Tim.
Yeah.
And, how does it feel being now you're going to be starting earning mega bucks on YouTube?
Well, I think I need to click the button to monetize it. I think you get about 5p every month on or something. So yeah, I probably won't give up the day job just yet. But, I kind of started as a bit of a sort of personal challenge, a bit like running really. And initially you kind of think you do a video and you think, well, how are you going to sort of tell anybody that it's there? And it's sort of like, I think I've been doing it like about a year now, trying to do about 1 or 2 a week. And each time you sort of get like a new subscriber, then a few hours later you might see another one, and you think, it's watching paint dry, get this number going up. I got to like 997 last night. I was filming one, and then by the morning it was still 997. I thought,
yes, I like your analogy there, Tim. It's a bit like watching paint dry. I mean, for those who are watching and who've got their tens and hundreds of thousands of subscribers, yes, it is tough for us, so minority channels, but it's great to see you on the channel, and I do love the content that you do put up there. I'm not just saying it because you're on the show. No, that's why I invited you on, because I enjoy your content. But in terms of your running background and stuff, you mentioned about you disillusioned with cricket, and for those, when you went out and bought those you had those Marks and Spencers, and for those in North America, I think the equivalent's probably like Walmart. So if you went to Walmart, or if you have your Lidls and Aldis now in North America as well, it'd be the flat trainers there. But your times when you were at school, you weren't like just a hobby runner. I mean, the times I've got here 800 meters, you ran a 155.8, and 1500 meters, you ran a 355.5. I mean, that is flying. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't at school. I mean, that was in my sort of mid-20s, and I've been doing it properly for some years. But yeah, I was quite pleased. I mean, I wasn't ever going to be like a 4-minute miler. I mean, a 1500 in 355. My best mile time was like 4:16.
Yeah.
And I think maybe I could have got down to about 4:10, 4:12. So you know, it's sort of county standard in the UK. So had a few sort of medals in the Norfolk Championship for us at university. But
some amazing times there, and you've done 4 sub-3 marathons. I think the last one you've done was this year in Seville.
Yeah, I got one in just before lockdown, actually, literally. You know.
That was February, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was, yeah, in Seville. Yeah, yeah.
So, do you have any favourites of the 4 marathons?
Well, it's hard to say favourite. I mean, I did 2 Londons, the first one. Then I did one in Italy, was the third one 4 years ago, and then Seville. So I think, you know, I think you've got to do London, haven't you, if you're a marathon runner? And I grew up in London, so, you know, it's sort of, you know, nice getting the train up and just sort of running around and then getting the train back. So, but I think having done the 2 Londons, you get to the stage, well, you need to do a marathon to then qualify to do another one, don't you?
That's right.
The chances of getting the ballot are pretty remote. So I thought, well, having done London twice, I thought at least I might try somewhere other ones. Have actually entered a few other ones, but I'd entered New York and I'd entered Dublin, but I had various problems along the way and never actually got to the line in those ones. So I think the journey on the marathon is often quite difficult, and to actually sort of arrive on the start line is an achievement in itself.
Yeah. I know that before we started recording, and I did check with you that you're okay, because at the moment you say not being able to get to the start line. There's a lot of people who may be watching, listening on the podcast, vlogcasts, where we all go through ups and downs with our training and injuries and so on, and we have sometimes some mishaps, and we all get them, and you're going through one right now. You're going through one right now. But for those who listen, what you know, you can talk about the actual mishaps, but how do you how do you get through them, and how you learned from that? What suggestions would you give to people in terms of what you're going through right now, and how do you cope with it? Because I hear some people sometimes they get a bit down, upset, and they feel a bit frustrated. How do you overcome that type of stuff? What do you do? Tips and hints on that?
Well, I think when you've been running, like, and sure, it's like you, I run most days of the week if I'm training properly, and then all of a sudden when you're not running, suddenly you find you've got a lot more time on your hands than you ever had.
Yeah.
And then the first thing you do is you still like try to eat as much as you ever did, and then you realise that actually that's perhaps not a great idea. And then so I've always been a bit of a sort of a closet cyclist as well. So I've done a few time trials and a few duathlons in the past. So, you know, if I can't run, then my immediate go-to is to get on the bike. But with the injury I've got at the moment, for the first week or so, I couldn't even do that. So it was literally sort of confined to, you know, in the settee and watching all the YouTube videos and working out how I'm going to film a YouTube video when I can't run. You know, what I'm going to talk about. It's a bit embarrassing. Here's me a run, but I can't run. So I don't know. I mean, I think, you know, we said before we started that I'm always very good at giving people advice, but not very good about taking it. So this particular injury I got about a month ago, I had a little niggle when I did a track session, and I stopped it and I sort of hobbled off, and, you know, it was a bit of a sort of a lower leg injury. So I thought, I'll just sort of take a few easy days. And then I had one more track race in the season, because we had in the UK, fortunately, they allowed us to have a few track races in sort of August and September. So being a sort of a natural track runner, and there wasn't many road races going on, I thought I'd sort of try my hand at some of them, you know. So I was literally on my last 1500, and I knew I wasn't right warming up because it was quite painful. So I literally ran a lap of the 1500, and I heard this sort of really strange, sort of, it was almost like snapping sound, and it was my calf torn. And it was kind of bizarre because I literally tore it literally like after one lap. So at least I didn't have far to walk off the track, because I literally arrived back where I started. But yeah, I mean, it's sort of like you go from sort of thinking that you're going to do a good time to barely taking like almost half an hour to walk back to the car, and then you get in the car thinking, well, how the hell am I going to drive back? Because I could barely bend my leg, you know. So
yeah.
But I think you just have to sort of be philosophical, and I think I think after a while you must get used to not being a runner, and you kind of miss it. But then you realise that you just can't. If you can't run, you can't run, can you? I mean, sometimes you just got to head it out. I mean, I'm going to physio tomorrow, and hopefully I'll get a bit of an insight into how much more time I need to spend off. I think I need about probably another 3 weeks before I can try a jog. But there's no point in trying a jog, so I'll probably end up making it worse. So I think this time I do need to sort of listen to my own device and not run until physio said I can. And my wife Sue, she's sort of quite a senior nurse, or has been. So she's sort of saying, "I told you not to run," and then sure enough, you did. So not limited amount of sympathy there as well.
Did she tell you not to run because you've been complaining about a niggle?
Pretty much, yeah. Because I had done another race on the Thursday before the Saturday, so I pulled out of that one thinking that I couldn't do both, but I could do the second one because I had 2 more days rest. But as it turned out, no, it wasn't right then, after 2 more days either.
So would you say that patience is the key?
I think it has to be, yeah. I mean, I've been on the bike, and the trouble is I'm getting impatient with the bike. So the first few times, I just have a gentle spin on the bike in a low gear, and then I get bored of that, thinking, well, can I go a bit faster? Can I go a bit further? So I did the first time I did 10 minutes, and then, well, maybe the next time I'll do 15. And then I think, well, the Zwift Academy started. Well, maybe I'll enter the bike Zwift Academy because I can do all the workouts. So I got it on the other day, and I was doing this thing. I hadn't spotted there was like an 8-minute time trial at the end. So it was quite hard because it was like an hour of, sort of intervals.
At the end?
Yeah.
Well, you've done a workout. You're going to go flat out for 8 minutes.
So I did that, and I got my highest heart rate I had got for like 3 years, I think. I got to, 3 past the maximum setting on my Garmin. So I had to go and reset all my max heart rates on my Garmin's because I've actually got higher than it again, So yeah.
So you were technically dead, according to the Garmin.
Yeah.
I mean, I've once reached, when I was walking, I think I had a heart rate of 240.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which for my age, I think
there's electric pylon overhead.
Yeah, I think it gets a bit crazy with the wrist height. But it's interesting you mentioned about the bike and stuff, because I've found a new passion with lockdown. I bought myself a turbo trainer, and I didn't realize you can have so much fun just sitting on a bike, as you say, watching YouTube or TV or whatever, doing your workouts. But you touched on about your heart rate and so on. Is there, because I'd wanted to throw in that you used to do duathlon, and you were a Great Britain age group athlete as well in the duathlon.
It probably sounds better than it is, because I think I'm not sure what the rules are now. I think there was a qualifying race at Goodwood, I think, the first year I did it, and you had to get in like the top 12. Yeah. And I think if 12 don't want to go, that you can almost you can sort of apply to go anyway. But so I kind of felt like I achieved it. Actually, I did well enough in the trial race to qualify as a right. And I'd always done a bit of cycling, and I'd always done a bit of running as my main love. And also trying to combine the two together would be the ultimate thing. But I soon realised that the races are a bit long, and coming from a person who's like 800 and 1500, I was suddenly having to race for like 2 hours. So 2 minutes to 2 hours is a different proposition. That's kind of why the marathon was always a challenge to me, because I'm okay for about a mile, but then it's 25 more to go in this.
It's fascinating, because I once met a guy who in Germany, he's at Frankfurt Marathon, and I recognise he's a bit of a celebrity. But when you look at his background, he was one of the best 800-meter runners in Germany at the time. So I think he was like top 5 in Germany. So he's a top athlete. Now he runs ultra marathons.
I know.
Yeah. He said, it's just how he found almost the opposite. The 800 meters now, he doesn't feel, well, what was the point of that? I'm done and dusted in just a couple of minutes.
Well, it's funny, because you had the lady on doing the Land's End to John O'Groats the other day, and you always think, oh, it's really long, it must be really hard. And I'm sure it is. But if you've ever raced an 800 flat out, then okay, it's over in about 2 minutes. Hopefully sometimes under when I was younger. But those 2 minutes are like the most painful things ever. And you sort of after all that lactate, you sort of I remember once I did a track session and I had to sit down for like 45 minutes because I was so dizzy with all the lactate.
Yeah.
So it's a different type of
absolutely. It's funny that I did mention at the end of this particular chat, I've got the Fast, 5 and Furious, but that is probably one of the questions in there. But anyway, we won't preempt that. We'll tease them as we do media time. Although we're not media people, you know, we're IT geeks. Is that we can tease everyone, they can listen to that at the end. But I just wanted to talk about IT and geekness, that you have there's a couple of websites which I use myself, and I didn't realize that it's you, and that is the Power of 10 and Run Britain. Do you want to tell us a little bit about, Tim, what those two websites do and how you came about working with it, for it, owning them, whatever it is?
Yeah, so when you say it's me, I'm part of a company called Athletics Data, which I'm a director. So those two websites are sort of results and ranking sites for the running and athletics in the UK. So the Power of 10 is a bit more focused towards track, and Run Britain is a bit more focused towards road running. So on there, we kind of record all the performances that happened in UK races, and we sort of present them in rankings. And we have this handicap system on Run Britain where I convert all your performances into like a golf style, sort of 0 to 36 style score. So then having done that, you can kind of rank people throughout the UK. So I started getting into stats. I think it's sort of the late 80s when I was at university, and I remember starting literally writing them out on a bit of paper. And sort of soon, it was quite a sort of, in those days, PCs weren't so prevalent, so nobody had their own computer, so you had to sort of go and find one at the university, and, log on, and
sort of write the Commodore 64, was it?
Yeah, I think there was one that literally had like a printer as the screen. This was even like when I was at university. It was still like the late 80s. They have their own screens. So funny how those things have come on. So then I started working with the magazine Athletics Weekly about just over 10 years ago, and then UK Athletics at the time had this initiative that they called the Power of 10. It's a bit of an odd one, but the idea was that if you recorded like the 10th best performance in the country and then tried to show what that was and encourage people to improve, then all the standards would hopefully improve as well. But fundamentally behind that was actually doing a ranking system. So I think the name Power of 10 is not our name, it's UK Athletics' name. And then, eventually we got to take over the running of that. So, me, it's not my main job, but I do all the sort of programming for it. So all the actual website and all the sort of algorithms behind it and me. But we have various people that work sort of around the country doing sort of the actual day-to-day work, answering the emails, putting the results in, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I do love it because I never heard about it. And then people were telling me that they knew my race times. And I thought, how do you know the times? And I don't even know it myself. And they said, oh, have you not seen this website? You're on it. And I went, oh. And I love it. And it's great being able to see. I love it when my chart just keeps going up. That's my happy bit. But it's when it comes down I don't like. Or if I've had a bit of a break. But I wanted to ask you in terms of, because sometimes when I see a number, maybe some people watching would want to know this as well, is that when you see there's the time, so the park runs are all recorded on the Run Britain ones, aren't they? So every time I complete a park run, so it shows the time, and then there's a bracket, either a plus number or a minus number. Does that mean it's increasing the rank, your handicap, or decreasing it? Is that what it means?
You're talking about Run Britain. Well, we have this way of like sort of ranking how difficult a race was. So that sort of ties into the handicap. So what I do is I take your best times and then convert them to some sort of point system, which is analogous to like a golf handicap. So say you did, an example, say you did 20 minutes for 5K, that gets converted to a point score. I forget what exactly it is, maybe about 9 points, something like that. And then if you do more park runs or different races, then you get like different points for each one. So I average out the best of them. And then I work out, compared to, take all the runners in a race or a park run and compare what they did to what I'm expected to do. And then based on that, you can kind of calculate a rough sort of difficulty of the course on that day. Right. So say it was like, really windy, or it was raining, and everyone really ran a lot slower than expected. So in that sense, you're going to get like a high number for the difficulty of that particular day. So, so it's a way of saying, well, if you ran 20 minutes on a really fast course, it might not necessarily be any better than running 22 minutes on a hilly course on a wet day. So it sort of allows you to sort of compare times between different races.
Yeah, because one of my highlights was I think I'd finished a half marathon, Hampton Court, I think it was. It's a nice flat one, and I just went, I just went hell for leather and came in with a new PB. And I didn't know anything about the site, and someone messaged me and says, "Oh, you're in the top 50 in Britain." I went, "Really?" And I think it was my age category, which I was quite chuffed with because I'd only been like proper training for about 6 months. So, but obviously as the year progresses, people are getting quicker and quicker. So this was like February or whatever.
Well, I was in the top 100 nationally for the marathon for ages because I did one in Seville in February. There weren't any more. I was thinking,
it's all about timing, isn't it, Tim? Yeah. Speaking of timing, and I've got to ask you because I can see all those lovely boxes in the corner there, and I was going to say you're almost like not quite, because I've seen other YouTubers who do have lots of shoes, almost like the Imelda Markov of shoes. Do you have, because I know you do, whilst you don't, I think we were chatting earlier, we don't do per se shoe reviews, but we do talk about the ones that we do and running and so on and so forth. Do you have any top 3 for different types, and what are your views on for say a beginner having lots of different shoes for different types of training? If someone's getting started, say in road running, do they need a whole platitude of different shoes? If they're a beginner,
I guess it's like anything. Is it if you're starting out? I mean, what's the saying? All the gear and no idea, isn't it? I mean, if you're starting out cycling, you don't need 5 bikes with a time trial bike as well. If you just want to ride around the block. So I think certainly, when if you're just starting out, the best thing to do is get like a sort of general trainer that you can do all your different types of running in it. And these days the sort of the cushioning in the shoes are pretty good, aren't they? So I think it's kind of easy said than done these days, but I mean, in the days where you could go into a shop and try them out, then that's probably the best way, because the problem these days is you never quite know how they're going to fit until they get them. So I mean, when you've been doing it a while, you get to know what's your sizes in different brands. So you certainly don't need a load of shoes. You certainly don't need a lot of shoes, full stop, as my wife keeps telling me. But well,
you still keep on it.
You've got to talk about cycle, YouTuber.
Yeah. I mean, I always say if the shoe fits, then great. I mean, as I say, for me, the advice that was given to me, I just went to a local running store, a proper running store, not just turned up at Marks and Spencer's and think, well, that fits, I'll go with it. And just tried on different ones, went on the treadmill and found one that fit me, and that was the shoe. And I would run in that till the miles ran out, and then I'd go back into the shoe store and buy the same one, and then run with that and do the marathon.
Well, that's what I used to do, really. For years, I mean, I think that I had my record. I think I had 13 pairs of one pair of New Balance in the about the 90s. But these days, I mean, if I buy a shoe more than once, then I must really like it, because I buy a load of shoes once, and then sometimes I like them, sometimes I'm not. I mean, I saw you sent back one, didn't you, recently? Those were the Tempo Next.
Yeah, the Tempo, the squeaky ones. I call them the squeaky shoes.
Yeah, that was a really odd one. Yeah, you hear yourself coming in with that one, definitely.
Well, I've, as you say, I think that one polarizes a lot of views. Although my previous guest that I had on, Amrit, he has the Tempo, and I think they're great for speed, aren't they? I mean, I did try them out for a number of weeks, and I think if you're doing an easy run, they're hard work. But when you get up to the high speeds, they do work really well. But I found the grip, but the squeakiness, Amrit found a way of resolving the squeakiness. Do you know what it is?
All right, no.
WD-40.
Stop.
But he did iterate on his Instagram feed. He said, I take no responsibility. This is what I've done with my shoes, and it solved my problem. But if you have problems, that's up to you. But yeah, he was showing me that he had a WD-40 and then put it in there, and it stopped the squeaking.
Oh God!
Whether that stops the power of the air zoom, but obviously now we live in 2020, where it seems to be you have to have a different pair for different days, different types. What would you say is your, some people refer it to as a quiver of shoes, where you have a selection that you work through. What are your go-to shoes at the moment, and are they for different types of training that you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think as I've been doing running for quite a long time and do different types of running, then you have different shoes for different purposes. So, I mean, I did a couple of videos on this. I mean, if I'm doing a race, like a road race, I think the Next Percent is my favourite. I mean, I've done a few sort of what I call shoe off videos on my channel where I've kind of run in different shoes and tested them and see what my heart rate is, trying to run at the same speed one after another. And that one just sort of, I think as you said earlier, is also one that just seems to fit me quite well.
Yeah.
So that would be my one for road races. For general training, again, it kind of depends how fast you're going, isn't it? So if I'm calling what you might have, so like your everyday trainer where they tend to be a bit more cushioned, a bit heavier, and you just sort of go them on your recovery days, or if you want to do like a long easy run. So I think in that category, the one the one I rated most in my video was the Nova Blast from Asics.
Okay, yeah.
It wasn't like one that I must say I sort of really loved. It didn't fit me that great, but it's so cushioned. So if you've done like a really hard session the day before and you just went out and sort of want to do like a 5-mile sort of recovery run, it was quite nice because you put these on and it just felt like you were just bouncing along. You could barely feel the road. But so there's those type of shoes. If I'm doing a more like sort of everyday train where it's a bit faster, maybe you can sort of touch on sort of marathon pace. And I think the two that I'm liking most at the moment are the Turbo 2 from Nike and the Endorphin Speed from Saucony.
Okay.
It's a bit of a rumour that Turbo 2 is possibly on the way out. So I heard a few pairs of them, and then the Endorphin Speed is quite a similar shoe. It's got quite a high stack height. It's got some sort of nylon plate in it rather than one of these ones, apparently. But
well, I've held a pair. I think they sort of arrived, and I thought no, and it just felt like I was holding a piece of plastic. Again, that's just my view.
Yeah.
But it didn't. I like something a bit more substantial. I mean, I like me Sauconys. In fact, these lovely ones. Over 1,000 miles I've done in these.
They look like well used, those ones. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's over 1,000 miles and it's completely gone on the midfoot. But these are like easy miles, and it's comfortable and it feels like racing as I cast it to one side.
I think there's so many different. I mean, I think obviously like the brands like Nike, everyone, Adidas, there's Saucony even. There's quite a lot of like the Tempo Next Percent comes out, or the Pegasus, or the Next Percent. Everyone's kind of heard of them, but there's so many shoes. I mean, even the people that review different shoe every day aren't covering nearly all of them.
No.
So
well, there's so many. I mean, you've got the Hoka Oniones, you've got the Newton, and a Puma, and there's so, as you mentioned, New Balance as well. There's so many shoe companies out there, and there's more arriving. I think it's a case of find a pair that's comfortable and just go with the flow.
Although I do buy quite a lot, I do try and sort of only buy shoes that I think reasonably would work for me. I mean, I think there's no point in me buying, say, a stability shoe, because I don't think I need a stability shoe, and I don't really like running in very heavy trainers, so I don't think I would give that a fair review if I was running in something I just didn't like running in. So I mean, there's obviously a few shoes you buy, you think, why don't I bother with that one? But in the main, I sort of try and use them as much as I can. So I think you have to be quite a dedicated runner to actually get out enough days that you can actually run in these shoes. I was doing about sort of 60 miles in the week in the summer, and then you can literally wear a different pair of shoes each day, and then before you know it, you can get to a few to 100 miles, and then you get another one to 100 miles, and you can sort of formulate a good view on all of them.
And then see what works. But obviously with how you are now and the injury, once you get back into the running, I wanted to touch on, obviously, in terms of where we're at now in Britain, and different parts of the world, and restrictions that are being imposed. And only today, literally just before I called you, I had an email from Boston Athletics. I just saw the headline. I've not read the detail, but my guess is they've done what London have done and what Manchester have done. So all the races, big races, are moving from spring, and they've already been shunted over to next autumn.
Okay.
And with restrictions of races and so on, what plans do you have in terms of your training and races? You mentioned track and whatever. What over the next sort of 6 months? We're coming into winter now.
I think it's really difficult, isn't it?
What plans do you have, and how do you work that?
It's really difficult to plan at the moment, isn't it? Because I think I was quite focused last winter on Seville, because nobody obviously knew that this was going to happen, and you think, well, you enter a race and you know, sure enough, it happens, isn't it? But nowadays you enter a race and sure enough, it gets cancelled or postponed. You know, what do you do? So I think at the moment, to be honest, I haven't really got any sort of plans for racing because I think I just want to get myself back to be able to run and then sort of look ahead. And I'm kind of thinking, well, surely at some point there's going to be some sort of clarity of what's going to be going forward. I mean, I've only ever done 4 marathons. I'm not one of these people that, you know, literally runs 3, you know, 1 a month or something. So, you know, I'm not.
or one every day.
I was actually not sure that I was actually desperate to run another one anytime soon. But I think, it must be so frustrating. You do all that training and then you got to run the virtual race, or you know, I don't mind running a virtual 5K, but to run a virtual marathon, that just seems like work to me.
It's I mean, for me, I done the virtual London, but that's only I had an event that I ran it at. So
you did Dorney, didn't you?
Yeah, I've done Dorney, which was quite.
That looked like a very hard day. I remember seeing your video, thinking rather you than me running there.
Yeah, I think I should have stayed in that day. But anyway, that's another story for another video. But yeah, I'm with you on that. But that's in terms of what's now. But what would you suggest to people do? I mean, I'm going to be doing a live chat in a few days' time, and talking about what my plans are. But what would your plans be?
Well, I think, you're going backwards. I
think no marathons.
When I done my marathon, I was kind of thinking that I was going to try and target the shorter distances anyway. So not necessarily track, but sort of 5Ks, 10Ks, thinking that there would be some races. So throughout the sort of the summer, when I was able to go out and my running, I was trying to sort of emphasize a bit more speed, because I always thought that ultimately, you know, you run well at all distances because you're quite fit. So I always think if I can do a reasonable 5K, I'm going to be able to do a reasonable marathon or come down to a 1500 on the track as well. So that sort of middle ground also works quite well for me. And I think those sort of distances are quite accessible. I think it's partly why park run is so successful, isn't it? Because most runners can turn up and do a 5K, you know, reasonably often. And some weeks you don't need to sort of try flat out. Some weeks you do and some weeks you don't. So. And I'm starting to see a few sort of races appearing. So I think if you look close enough and have to sort of compromise a bit on what you do, then there are a few around. But you know, it is difficult. I think, you know, ultimately, you know, these virtual races and just trying to do your own time trials, and you know, I'm quite into Strava, so I'm often trying to sort of see how many Strava segments I can attack and stuff like that. So any sort of like little motivation, because I mean, the problem for me these days, so I'm 53, I'm never going to do a PB because my marathon PB was at 2005, and I can barely run. Well, I could barely run a 5K at my marathon pace now. So chances of me doing an outright PB are pretty much gone, unless I do an ultra or something. But
that time was 2:30, wasn't it? 2:33. 2:33.
Yeah.
Never say never, Tim, because there is a guy, and I can't remember his surname, and he's just turned 55, so he's in the V55 category. But he said he's the third slowest in his family. So he's got 2 sons. He's got 2 sons, or it might be a son and a daughter who are quicker and then 1 son slow. But anyway, he said he's the third, but he ran a 2:31 when he was 53, I think, or 50.
That's my age now.
50. But again, I think he is. Graham's his first name. I might try and get him on the show and talk to him. He's now turned into the 55, and seeing his posts, he just seems. I mean, he is a very, very fit guy. He'll do 130 miles a week without blinking, and he'll run 630 miles. So never say never. You never know, but I guess go by feel. So like you've done now, you need to take your own advice. I think that's part of the
problem. I always sort of like dream. I wake up and suddenly I run like I did when I was 25, but the reality is it doesn't seem to quite happen. And, I suppose, I mean, a lot of runners these days, they probably only started when they were later. So I don't even have that sort of... they call it like the athlete age, don't they? I think I've seen a few studies where wherever age you start, you've got about 9 years of improvement. Well, I've been running about 40 years, so maybe that's a challenge, you know.
Wow, 9 years of it. I've not heard that one. I'd heard the 5-year where you then decide what is a good distance. You know, people try different. I think even track people, sometimes they try 100, 200, 400, 800, and it takes a number of years to work out which ones they're most optimum at, and then they spend the next X years doing the best that they can. But
I think generally, as you get older, you tend to sort of gravitate to longer distances. So I think when I started on the track, I was 800 was my main distance. And I think by the time I finished, well, not finished, I don't think I ever did, but it was more like 1500. And then nowadays, I'm thinking, well, I'm probably now a bit of probably something around 5k or 10k is probably my best distance, and then I can go up to a marathon or come down to the track. So I always like doing different distances. I don't want to get bored of doing the same one after all the time.
Yeah, but you build up. Before I go into my Fast 5 and Furious, just give us a quick sample of this time last year as you were doing a run up to Seville. What was your typical training week, starting say on a Monday and working our way through to Sunday? What would be a typical training week for you? So if someone's looking to do a sub 3, irrespective of what their age is, what was your typical week?
Well, I think for me, for a marathon, I think there's 3 key elements. You long run, your runs when you're running at the pace you want to race at, and all you basically aerobic conditioning miles, and then also a bit of running faster than it, so you don't find that marathon pace is sort of fastest. So I also do a lot of running on Zwift on the treadmill behind me. So Mondays used to be our sort of Monday run club, where we would do sort of like 45 minutes ish, sort of fairly steady. It was meant to be a little bit of recovery after the Sunday. So that would be, it might be easy to actually start on the Sunday. So Sunday would start your long run. And then Monday would be like sort of a bit of a recovery day after the long run. And then Tuesday, often I used to go to my physio on a Tuesday. So I used to sort of get in a run on the way. So depending on how much time I did, it would kind of be, I don't know, sort of 10k up to 10 miles if I had enough time, but quite steady. And then Wednesday would probably be the day I would do the interval session on Zwift. So that would be sort of like a 5k type, 10k type sort of interval session. So, you know, I mean, the classic example that Marathon Talk and other podcasts is something like your 6 by 3 minutes, you know, that sort of thing, you know, sort of a good sort of 5k pace type one. So you're just getting a bit used to running a bit faster than you would do it in your marathon. And then Thursday and Friday would probably be kind of similar. And then what I used to do, because obviously I was working in the week and in a normal environment, didn't have so much time. So especially in the winter, because you can't really get out in the daylight so easily, can you, in the winter? So I used to, on a Saturday, I would quite often do like my marathon pace work. So I would either do, say, 10 miles at roughly the sort of pace that I would want to race at. So for me, I was trying to get under sub 3 in Seville. So it kind of works out in my mind, well, that's 650 a mile. So, you know, I maybe, you know, see how many miles I could run at that pace before it becomes difficult. And you think, well, when you first started the training, oh, Jesus, I can barely run, barely run 10k at this pace. How am I going to run a full marathon at this pace? But
the training is 16 weeks.
Yeah, then Sunday would be back to the long run. So I think I probably, when I was in full training for marathon, I was doing about 16, 17 miles a week, I think, altogether. I was only doing 1 day a week. I've tried running twice a day, but you know, sometimes it's just not enough time in the day to get changed twice. But but I think it's about consistency. So, you know, I'd always like to get my long run in. I'd always like to get that sort of session in, and always like to sort of try and get some, you know, running at marathon pace. And the rest of it is really just sort of just trying to run, get some aerobic miles in, and not try and run those too fast. Otherwise,
running it easy. Keep the legs ticking over. So, as you say, consistency is a key. That sounds a really good week, Tim. So, as I mentioned, I know you can't wait. The Fast 5 and Furious. So, the format is, I'll say, I've just got 5 questions. They're all pretty random. Some are running related, some are not running related. And you'll have a choice of A or B. And as with previous guests, I've made up some are pertinent to yourself, some are just pretty random. But here we go. Are you ready, Tim, for the Fast 5 and Furious? So, question number 1, Microsoft or Apple?
Well, that's a tricky one. I've got a bit of both. Well, all my websites are in Microsoft, so I'll probably have to go with that one.
Okay. Question number 2, cupcake or cheesecake?
We'll do like a nice cheesecake, so I'll say that.
Excellent, excellent. Now, this one, I think you must have read my notes. If you had a choice of a 400-meter hard race or a marathon race, which one would it be? 400 meters or marathon?
Oh, I mean, so I probably have to say a marathon, because the 400 is a sprint. I am an endurance runner, so
yeah.
And you get far more kudos saying you've run a sub-3 marathon than you have to say running a 62 400. But people have no idea what you're talking about. You run a sub-3 marathon.
Yeah,
oh, that's quite good, isn't it?
How fast you are. Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
Now, here's a good one. Your go-to recovery food after you've done some training or a race.
I shouldn't do any videos on diet, because it would be terrible. It'd be like a curry and ice cream or something.
Excellent. I like it. I like it. Yes. And last but not least, question 5: Nike or Adidas?
Well, I got a lot of each, but I just have to say Nike just edges it, really.
Nike. Thank you so much. I've got to say, Tim, I've really enjoyed chatting with you here and getting an insight into yourself. We'll probably have to have you back on when you're fit and well again and do running. And maybe we could do a live one when you're on your treadmill, and we can do the questioning whilst you're running on the treadmill. How does that sound?
That sounds good, yeah. Just sort out my audio for that
one. It's been an absolute pleasure, Tim. Thank you so much. And as I said at the beginning, for those who want to follow Tim on his YouTube channel, I have left a link in the description below, and follow his channel. It is his name, Tim Grose. And thank you so much for your time and sharing your insights, Tim. And we'll see you all soon. So bye-bye, YouTube, and bye-bye.
Thanks very much. Yeah, it's been great being on. Look forward to the next one.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Cheers.